Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Tsunade surrendered to Seduce Naruto and Harem. And subscribe if you enjoy the video. And also check the description. So let's begin the story. The sun hung low over Konohagakure, painting the Hokage monument in shades of amber and gold. Tsunade stood on the balcony of the Hokage's office, her honey-colored eyes surveying the village she had protected for so many years. The war was over. The world had changed, and soon, her time in this office would end as well. She should have felt relieved. Gods knew she'd complained about the paperwork enough times, had threatened to quit more often than she could count. But now, facing the reality of stepping down, Tsunade felt something unexpected, a hollowness she couldn't quite name. Still hiding up here, Granny? The voice made her lips twitch despite herself. She didn't turn around, but she could feel Naruto's presence as clearly as if he were standing right beside her. The boy, no, the man now, had a chakra signature like the sun itself, warm, bright, impossible to ignore. "I don't hide, brat," she said, her voice carrying its usual gruffness. "I'm surveying my domain before I hand it over to the next sucker who takes this job." Naruto's laugh echoed across the balcony as he joined her at the railing. He'd grown tall, she noticed with an odd pang. When had that happened? Somewhere between the pain invasion and the war's end, the hyperactive genin with impossible dreams had transformed into a young man who'd actually achieved them. "About that," Naruto said, his voice taking on a more serious tone. "The council wants to meet tomorrow." "About the succession?" Tsunade's jaw tightened. Of course they did. The village elders had been circling like vultures since the war ended, eager to insert themselves into every decision. "Let me guess. Hamura and Kohara have some opinions about who should take over?" "They have opinions about everything," Naruto replied, but there was no real heat in his words. He'd learned patience somewhere along the way. Another change she'd missed while drowning in casualty reports and reconstruction plans. "But that's not what I wanted to talk about." She finally turned to look at him properly. The evening light caught in his blonde hair, making it glow like a halo. His blue eyes, Minato's eyes, she thought with a familiar ache, held an unusual seriousness. "What's on your mind?" Naruto's hand went to the back of his head, that old nervous gesture she'd seen 1,000 times. But he dropped it almost immediately, squaring his shoulders instead. "I need your advice. About something important." Tsunade felt her heart rate pick up, though she kept her expression neutral. In all their years together, Naruto had asked her opinion on jutsu, on strategy, on whether Sakura would kill him for various offenses. But he never looked quite this serious. "Walk with me," she said instead of answering directly. They left the Hokage's office in comfortable silence, their footsteps echoing through the nearly empty building. Most of the staff had gone home hours ago, leaving only the night watch and the ever-present ANBU guards who shadowed the Hokage like silent ghosts. The evening air was crisp as they descended the stairs and entered the village proper. Lanterns were being lit along the streets, casting pools of warm light onto the cobblestones. Villagers called out greetings to both of them, to Tsunade with respect, to Naruto with genuine affection that made something in her chest constrict. "The council wants me to consider marriage," Naruto said finally, the words tumbling out in a rush. "For political alliances, clan restoration, all that stuff." Tsunade's stride didn't falter, but her hands clenched into fists at her sides. She forced them to relax. "You're the hero of the war, the child of prophecy, and the container of the 9 tails. Of course they want to tie you down with political marriages." She kept her voice level, analytical. "What did you tell them?" "That I needed time to think about it." Naruto kicked at a loose stone, sending it skittering across the path. "That I wanted to talk to you first." "Why me?" The question came out sharper than she intended. Naruto looked at her with those impossibly blue eyes, and for a moment, she saw past the hero, past the Hokage-in-waiting, to the boy who'd first demanded she return to the village and take up the mantle she'd run from. "Because you've always been honest with me, even when I didn't want to hear it. Because you understand what it's like to have the village's expectations crushing down on you." He paused, then added more softly, "Because I trust you more than anyone." The words landed like kunai in her chest. Tsunade forced herself to breathe normally, to maintain the professional distance she'd always kept between them. He was her student, in a way. Her comrade. The grandson of her late love in all but blood. But lately, when she looked at him, she saw none of those things first. She saw a man who'd surpassed every expectation, who'd saved the world, who looked at her with respect and affection, and something else she was terrified to name. Marriage isn't something you should do just for politics, she said finally. I've seen too many shinobi trapped in loveless arrangements, for the sake of village alliances. It breeds resentment. But you understand why they're pushing for it, right? Naruto's voice held a frustration she recognized. The Uzumaki clan is nearly extinct. Same with the Senju. There's pressure to restore the old bloodlines, strengthen the village. Your life isn't a breeding program, Naruto. The words came out more vehemently than she intended, and she saw him blink in surprise. They'd reached the memorial stone without consciously heading there. Both of them drawn to this place of remembrance. Tsunade traced her fingers over the names carved in granite, finding Nawaki's and Dan's with the ease of long practice. What would you do? Naruto asked quietly. If you were in my position? It was a loaded question, and they both knew it. Tsunade had run from responsibility for decades, drowning her grief in gambling and sake. She was hardly a role model for making hard choices about duty versus desire. But maybe that's exactly why she could answer honestly. I'd figure out what I actually wanted first, she said. Not what the council wants. Not what's politically convenient. What would make you happy, Naruto? Because I've lived long enough to know that duty without happiness becomes a prison. What if I don't know what I want? His voice was almost a whisper. Tsunade turned to face him fully, studying his expression in the fading light. The uncertainty there, the vulnerability. It reminded her that despite everything he'd accomplished, he was still young, still figuring out who he was beyond the roles others had assigned him. Then you need to figure it out before you make any commitments. She reached out, placing a hand on his shoulder. The contact sent a jolt through her that she firmly ignored. You have time, Naruto. Don't let anyone pressure you into rushing this. Even if the council threatens to choose for me, let them try. Tsunade's smile was sharp. I'm still Hokage for a few more weeks. And I'd like to see them argue with me about who gets a say in your personal life. Naruto's responding grin was like sunshine breaking through clouds. That's what I was hoping you'd say. They started walking again, this time through the quieter residential districts. Tsunade found herself hyper-aware of Naruto's presence beside her. The easy confidence in his stride, the warmth that seemed to radiate from him, the way people's faces lit up when they saw him. There's something else, Naruto said after a while. Something I've been wondering about. Just one thing? That's showing unusual restraint. He ignored her jab, his expression turning serious again. Why are you really stepping down? I know you always complained about the job, but it feels sudden. Like you're running from something. Tsunade's breath caught. Of course he noticed. Naruto had always been more perceptive than people gave him credit for, especially when it came to reading emotions. I'm tired, she said, which was true enough. I've been Hokage through a war. The village needs fresh leadership for the peace. That's the official answer. What's the real one? She should have deflected. Should have told him to mind his own business, or made some crack about his nosiness. Instead, she found herself being honest. Because every time I look at you, I'm reminded that I'm holding a position that should be yours. You saved this village. You saved the world. And you did it because you believed in something better than what we've always had. She paused, choosing her words carefully. I want to see what you'll build, Naruto. I want to be here to watch you become the Hokage I know you'll be. And I can't do that while I'm still sitting in that office. It wasn't the whole truth. She was carefully skirting around feelings too complicated to name, but it was enough. Naruto was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. I wouldn't be here without you, you know. You and Jiraiya and Irika-sensei and so many others. I didn't save the world alone. No, Tsunade agreed. But you were the one who refused to give up when everyone else would have. That's not something that can be taught. They'd somehow ended up at the hot springs, the steam rising into the cool evening air. Tsunade felt a pang of longing for the simplicity of just relaxing in the water, forgetting about politics and duty and these confusing feelings for a while. Join me for a drink? Naruto asked, gesturing to a small tea house across the street. I promise not to order anything too strong. I know your tolerance is way better than mine. Tsunade laughed despite herself. One drink. But you're buying. The tea house was quiet at this hour, with only a few other patrons scattered among the tables. They chose a spot near the window, where they could watch the village lights twinkling to life across the hillside. The server brought sake in 2 cups, bowing deeply to both of them. Naruto poured for Tsunade first, a mark of respect she noticed with an odd flutter in her chest, before filling his own cup. To new beginnings, he said, raising his cup. To not knowing what the hell we're doing, Tsunade countered, clinking her cup against his. They drank in companionable silence for a moment. Tsunade savored the burn of good sake, feeling some of the day's tension ease from her shoulders. Can I ask you something personal? Naruto's voice was quiet, almost hesitant. You can ask. Whether I'll answer is another matter. Have you ever? He paused, seeming to struggle with the words. Have you ever had feelings for someone you knew you shouldn't? Someone who would complicate everything? Tsunade's hand tightened on her cup. The question hit too close to home, and from the way Naruto was carefully not meeting her eyes, she suspected he knew it. Yes, she said finally. More than once. What did you do about it? She thought about Dan, about the love they'd shared and lost. About Jiraiya, her teammate and friend who'd carried a torch for her for decades while she pretended not to notice. About the complicated tangle of grief and duty and desire that had shaped so much of her life. I ran, she admitted, for a very long time. And by the time I stopped running, it was too late. Naruto finally looked at her, and the understanding in his eyes made her breath catch. Do you regret it? Every day. The words came out raw, unguarded. I regret not being brave enough to face my feelings. I regret the years I wasted trying to hide from them. I regret. She stopped, realizing she was on the verge of saying too much. Regret what? Naruto's voice was gentle, encouraging. Tsunade met his gaze squarely. I regret not learning sooner that some things are worth the complication. That sometimes the risk of opening your heart is worth it, even when you're terrified. The air between them seemed to thicken with unspoken words. Naruto's blue eyes searched hers, and Tsunade saw her own confusion and longing reflected back at her. Tsunade-sama, he started, using her formal title for the first time that evening. Don't. She held up a hand, not ready for whatever he was about to say. Don't make this more complicated than it already is. It's already complicated, he said quietly. Has been for a while now. She wanted to deny it. Wanted to laugh it off, make a joke about him being delusional, retreat behind the walls she'd spent decades building. But sitting here, with the sake warming her blood and Naruto's honest gaze on hers, she couldn't quite manage it. You're going to be Hokage, she said instead. You'll have responsibilities, expectations. The council's pressure about marriage isn't going to go away. I know. Naruto poured them both more sake. But you told me to figure out what I actually want. So I'm trying to do that. And what do you want? The question hung between them, heavy with implications. Naruto took a drink before answering, and when he spoke, his voice was steady. I want people to be honest with me. I want to build something real, not just politically convenient. I want. He paused, then said more quietly, I want to stop pretending I don't feel things I'm not supposed to feel. Tsunade's heart hammered in her chest. She should end this conversation. Should remind him of the age difference, of her position as his former Hokage, of the 1,000 reasons why this was inappropriate. Instead, she heard herself say, and who says you're not supposed to feel them? Society. Tradition. Probably common sense. His smile was wry. I'm supposed to want someone young and uncomplicated. Someone who fits the image of what a Hokage's wife should be. And you don't? I want someone who challenges me. Someone who isn't afraid to call me an idiot when I'm being one. Someone who's strong enough to stand beside me, not behind me. He met her eyes directly. Someone like you. There it was. The words spoken aloud, hanging in the air between them like a jutsu waiting to be released. Tsunade should have laughed. Should have told him he was being ridiculous. That he'd outgrow this foolish crush. That she was old enough to be his. Well, not his mother, but certainly his much older sister. But the truth was she'd felt it too. Had felt it growing for months now, maybe longer. Every time he'd visited her office with that bright smile. Every time he'd stood between the village and destruction without a moment's hesitation. Every time he'd looked at her with respect and affection, and something deeper she'd been afraid to acknowledge. Naruto. She started, then stopped, unsure how to continue. You don't have to say anything, he said quickly. I needed you to know. Because you're right. I need to figure out what I want before I let the council push me into something. And part of figuring that out means being honest about what I'm feeling, even if those feelings are completely impractical, especially then. His grin was pure Naruto, reckless and hopeful and impossible to resist. When have I ever let impractical stop me? Despite everything, Tsunade laughed. Point taken. They finished their sake in more comfortable silence, the tension easing into something gentler. Tsunade found herself studying Naruto's profile in the lamplight. The strong line of his jaw, the calluses on his hands from years of training, the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled. When had he stopped being the annoying brat who demanded she return to the village? When had he become this? Walk me home? She asked when they finally stood to leave. Naruto's smile could have lit up the entire village. Of course, the streets were nearly empty now, most sensible people having gone to bed hours ago. Their footsteps echoed off the buildings, accompanied by the distant sound of night insects and the occasional cat prowling through shadows. Tsunade's apartment wasn't far from the Hokage Tower. Close enough that she could respond quickly to emergencies, far enough that she could pretend to have a life outside of work. Naruto walked beside her with the easy confidence of someone who belonged there, and Tsunade found she didn't mind. Thank you, he said as they reached her door. For tonight. For the advice. For everything. Don't thank me yet, Tsunade replied. You still have to deal with the council tomorrow. Yeah, but now I know what I'm going to tell them. He paused, then added, I'm going to tell them I'll consider their suggestions, but any decisions about marriage or alliances will be mine to make, and that I won't be rushed into anything. Good. Tsunade felt a surge of pride at his certainty. Stand your ground, Naruto. You've earned the right to choose your own path. Will you be there? At the meeting? Wouldn't miss it. Someone needs to keep those old windbags in check. Naruto's laugh was warm in the cool night air. He hesitated for a moment, as if debating whether to say something more, then seemed to think better of it. Instead, he simply said, Good night, Tsunade-sama. Good night, brat. She watched him walk away, his orange jacket, something's never changed, bright even in the darkness. Only when he turned the corner and disappeared from sight did she allow herself to sag against her doorframe, one hand pressed to her chest where her heart was still racing. This was dangerous. More dangerous than any battle she fought, because she knew how to handle kunai and jutsu. She had no idea how to handle these feelings that seemed to grow stronger every time she saw him. Naruto was going to be Hokage. He deserved someone who could stand beside him without baggage, without decades of trauma and loss weighing them down. Someone young and optimistic, untainted by the cynicism that came from living through too many wars. Someone who wasn't her. But as Tsunade entered her apartment and poured herself another drink, alone this time, she couldn't quite convince herself that logic mattered. The heart, she'd learned long ago, didn't care about what made sense. Outside her window, the Hokage monument stood watch over the village. Soon, Naruto's face would join those carved in stone, a permanent reminder of everything he'd achieved. And Tsunade would step down, fade into the background, let the next generation take center stage. It was the right thing to do. The practical thing. But for the first time in decades, Tsunade found herself wondering if maybe, just maybe, she deserved something more than just doing the right thing. If maybe she deserved a chance at happiness, even if it was complicated and impractical, and would set the gossip mills running for years. Tomorrow, she'd face the council with her usual steel. She'd defend Naruto's right to make his own choices. She'd be the wise, experienced Hokage they needed her to be. But tonight, alone in her apartment with sake warming her blood and Naruto's words echoing in her mind, Tsunade let herself imagine a different future. One where age and duty and tradition didn't matter as much as the connection between two people who'd found something unexpected in each other. It was a dangerous dream. A foolish one. But as she told Naruto earlier, Some things were worth the complication. Perhaps it was time she started taking her own advice. The council chamber felt smaller than usual, despite its high ceilings and spacious layout. Tsunade sat in the Hokage's chair for what would be one of the last times, her fingers drumming an impatient rhythm on the armrest as she waited for the meeting to begin. Hamura and Kohara sat to her right, their ancient faces creased with the particular brand of disapproval they seemed to reserve for anything involving change. Shikaku Nara occupied the seat to her left, looking as bored as always, though Tsunade knew his brilliant mind was already 3 steps ahead of whatever political maneuvering was about to unfold. The clan heads filled the remaining seats, Hayashi Hyuga with his usual stern composure, Some Inuzuka looking ready to bite someone, Choza Akimichi radiating his characteristic calm, and several others representing Konoha's founding families. And there, standing rather than sitting because he wasn't officially Hokage yet, was Naruto. He traded his orange jacket for something more formal, a black uniform with red accents that made him look older, more commanding. But his blue eyes still held that same determination she'd seen last night, and his jaw was set in a way that told her he wasn't going to back down easily. "Let's begin," Tsunade said, her voice cutting through the low murmur of conversation. "I understand you all have concerns about the succession." "Concerns is putting it mildly," Kohara said, her reedy voice sharp. "The position of Hokage comes with certain responsibilities beyond merely protecting the village. Responsibilities that Naruto-kun has yet to address." Naruto's eyes narrowed slightly, but he kept his voice level. "If you have something to say, just say it. I'm not big on dancing around the point." Hamura adjusted his glasses with a thin smile. "Very well. The council believes it's time you seriously considered marriage, Naruto-kun. For the good of the village." "I am considering it," Naruto replied evenly. "What I'm not doing is letting you choose for me." A ripple of reaction went through the room. Some barked out a laugh while Hayashi's expression remained unreadable. Shikaku's eyes gleamed with what might have been amusement. "No one is suggesting we choose for you," Kohara said, though her tone suggested otherwise. "However, the village's political stability requires certain alliances. The Uzumaki clan must be restored, the Senju bloodline preserved. These are not merely personal matters. They affect Konoha's future." Tsunade felt her temper rise, but forced herself to remain calm. She'd promised herself she'd let Naruto handle this, only intervening if absolutely necessary. "The Senju clan has been in decline for generations," Hayashi observed. "Through Tsunade-sama, the bloodline remains, but she has no heirs. If Naruto-kun were to marry appropriately, children could carry both Uzumaki and Senju blood." "You're talking about people like their breeding stock," Naruto said, his voice hardening. "These are lives we're discussing. Relationships. Not political chess pieces." "Welcome to leadership," Hamura replied dryly. "Every decision has political implications, whether we like it or not." Shikaku finally spoke up, his lazy drawl cutting through the tension. "What exactly are you proposing? That Naruto marry someone of your choosing and produce heirs on a schedule? That seems troublesome, and likely to backfire spectacularly." "We're proposing that he consider his options seriously," Kohara said. "There are several suitable candidates. Hinata Hyuga has shown unwavering devotion. Sakura Haruno is an exceptional kunoichi and already close to him. Even some of the younger clan heirs might be appropriate matches." Tsunade watched Naruto's face carefully. She saw him flinch slightly at Hinata's name, noticed the way his expression softened at Sakura's mention. But she also saw the stubborn set of his shoulders, the same look he got when someone told him something was impossible. "I'm not opposed to marriage," Naruto said carefully. "But I won't be rushed into it. And I definitely won't marry just to satisfy some political agenda." "This isn't just politics," Hayashi said quietly. "The clans have traditions for a reason, Naruto-kun. Strong bloodlines produce strong shinobi. Strategic marriages create lasting alliances. These practices have served Konoha well for generations. They've also created a lot of misery," Naruto countered. "I've seen what happens when people are forced into marriages they don't want. It doesn't create strength, it creates resentment." Tsunade found herself nodding slightly before catching herself. She couldn't appear to be taking sides, even though every word Naruto spoke echoed her own thoughts. "Perhaps," Choza rumbled, we're approaching this wrong. Rather than telling Naruto-kun what he should do, why don't we explain the historical context? Let him understand why these traditions exist, then make an informed choice. Shikaku's smile was approving. Troublesome as always, Choza, but you have a point. Naruto, do you know about the Clan Restoration Act? Naruto shook his head, and Tsunade felt a flash of irritation. Of course Jiraiya hadn't taught him about political history. The old pervert had been too busy with his research. After the Kyuubi attack and various conflicts that depleted our forces, the council enacted special provisions, Shikaku explained. Shinobi from nearly extinct clans were granted certain allowances in terms of marriage and family structure. The goal was to prevent valuable bloodlines from disappearing entirely. What kind of allowances? Naruto asked, his brow furrowing. Koharu's expression was sour, as if the words tasted bitter. In exceptional cases, with council approval, a shinobi could take multiple wives. It was considered necessary for rapid clan restoration. The room went very quiet. Tsunade felt her heart rate spike, though she kept her expression carefully neutral. She'd known about the Clan Restoration Act, of course. She'd been Hokage when it was proposed, but she'd never seriously considered how it might apply to Naruto's situation. You're suggesting I marry multiple women? Naruto's voice was flat, unreadable. We're suggesting it's an option, Hamura said. One that would allow you to satisfy multiple political objectives while also, perhaps, honoring your personal preferences. That's insane, Naruto said bluntly. What woman would agree to that? You might be surprised, Some said with a wolfish grin. The Inuzuka clan has practiced pact bonding for generations. Multiple partners aren't as scandalous as you might think, especially among shinobi clans. Hayashi inclined his head slightly. The Hyuga would not normally consider such arrangements. However, given Naruto-kun's status as a hero and future Hokage, exceptions could potentially be made. If Hinata were amenable, Tsunade couldn't stay silent any longer. You're all discussing this as if the women involved have no say in the matter. Have any of you actually asked them what they want? A fair point, Shikaku acknowledged. Though I suspect at least some of them would be quite willing. Naruto's not exactly unpopular with the female population. Naruto's face had gone red, and Tsunade couldn't tell if it was from anger or embarrassment. Probably both. This is ridiculous, he said. I'm not going to build some kind of harem just because it's politically convenient. Not a harem, Koharu corrected primly. A formal arrangement for clan restoration, with proper protocols and respect for all parties involved. That's literally the same thing with fancier words, Naruto shot back. Tsunade found herself fighting a smile despite the absurdity of the situation. Trust Naruto to cut through political doublespeak with blunt honesty. Perhaps we should table this discussion, she suggested. Give Naruto time to process the information and consider his options without pressure. Time is something we don't have in abundance, Hamura argued. The village needs stability. It needs to know the future is secure. The village survived a war, Tsunade said coldly. I think it can survive giving its hero a few months to make personal decisions. The two elders glared at her, but they knew better than to push when she used that tone. Tsunade had never been shy about reminding them exactly who was Hokage. A compromise, then, Shikaku proposed. Naruto takes time to consider his options and speak privately with anyone he's interested in pursuing. Meanwhile, we research the exact provisions of the Clan Restoration Act and what would be required for its implementation. No pressure, no deadlines. Just exploration of possibilities. It was a diplomatic solution, and Tsunade could see both Naruto and the elders grudgingly accepting it. The meeting continued for another hour, covering other aspects of the succession, training schedules, security protocols, the official transfer of power ceremony. But Tsunade barely heard any of it, her mind spinning with implications. When the meeting finally ended, Naruto caught her eye across the room. The look he gave her was complicated, part frustration, part confusion, and something else she couldn't quite identify. She gave him a small nod and watched as he left, immediately surrounded by well-wishers and advice-givers. Then she gathered her papers and retreated to her office, needing the solitude to think. The Clan Restoration Act. She'd opposed it when it was first proposed, seeing it as a desperate measure that treated women like breeding stock. But she'd been overruled by the council, who argued that extraordinary times required extraordinary measures. Now that same act might apply to Naruto. And if he chose to use it, Tsunade poured herself a drink, ignoring the fact that it was barely noon. Her hands were steady, but her thoughts were chaos. If Naruto took multiple wives, it would solve several political problems at once. The Uzumaki clan would be restored. Various village alliances would be strengthened, and Naruto could potentially choose people he actually cared about rather than being forced into a single politically expedient marriage. But it would also be complicated beyond measure. Multiple relationships, multiple personalities, the potential for jealousy and conflict. Not to mention the public scrutiny and gossip. And where would that leave her? The question surfaced before she could stop it. Last night, Naruto had essentially confessed his feelings for her, and she'd been on the verge of reciprocating, of admitting that somewhere along the way, the annoying brat had become someone she cared for deeply. But a formal arrangement involving multiple women? Could she even consider such a thing? A knock at her door interrupted her spiraling thoughts. "Come in," she called, setting down her glass. Shizen entered, her expression concerned. "Tsunade-sama, are you alright?" That meeting seemed insane? Presumptuous? Completely detached from reality? Tsunade offered. "I was going to say complicated," Shizen replied diplomatically. She closed the door behind her and took a seat across from Tsunade's desk. "They really suggested the Clan Restoration Act?" "They did. And what do you think about it?" Tsunade studied her longtime assistant and friend. Shizen knew her too well to be fooled by deflection. "I think it's a minefield waiting to explode. But I also think..." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "I think if anyone could make it work, it would be Naruto." Shizen's eyes widened slightly. "You're actually considering this?" "I'm not considering anything," Tsunade said quickly. Too quickly. "I'm simply acknowledging that Naruto has a talent for achieving the impossible." "Tsunade-sama." Shizen's voice was gentle but firm. "I've known you for decades. I know when you're lying to yourself." Tsunade slumped back in her chair, suddenly feeling every one of her years. "It doesn't matter what I'm thinking. Naruto needs to make his own choices. Even if those choices could include you?" The words hung in the air between them. Tsunade wanted to deny it, to laugh it off as absurd. Instead, she found herself being honest, especially then. "I can't be the one to influence this decision, Shizen. The power dynamic is too imbalanced. I'm his former Hokage, his mentor in many ways. If I expressed interest, he might feel obligated. Or," Shizen said softly, "he might be relieved that his feelings are reciprocated." Tsunade looked up sharply. "You knew about Naruto's feelings?" "I suspected. The way he looks at you isn't exactly subtle." Shizen smiled. "About your feelings?" "Tsunade-sama, you've been different around him for months now. More alive, less buried in the past. I'm too old for him." "You're not actually that old, thanks to your jutsu. And even if you were, when has Naruto ever cared about what's conventional?" Tsunade wanted to argue, but couldn't find the words. Because Shizen was right. Naruto had never let convention stop him from anything. "What would people say?" she asked finally. "The former Hokage and her successor? The age difference alone would cause scandal. People will talk regardless," Shizen pointed out. "If Naruto implements the Clan Restoration Act, they'll talk about that too. The question is, what do you want?" It was the same question Tsunade had asked Naruto last night. And she found she didn't have a better answer for it than he had. "I don't know," she admitted. "Part of me wants to run, like I always have. But another part..." She trailed off, unable to finish. "Wants to stay and see what could happen," Shizen supplied gently. Tsunade nodded, feeling more vulnerable than she had in years. "I've lost so many people, Shizen. Nawaki, Dan, Jiraiya. Everyone I've ever loved has died. Part of me thinks getting involved with Naruto would just be setting myself up for more pain. Or maybe," Shizen said, "it would be allowing yourself to actually live again instead of just existing." Before Tsunade could respond, there was another knock at the door. This time, it was one of the Chunin messengers. Hokage-sama, there's a visitor requesting to see you. Sakura Haruno. Tsunade exchanged a look with Shizen. Send her in. Sakura entered the office with the confidence of a fully fledged jonin. But Tsunade could see the tension in her shoulders. She trained this girl, taught her everything she knew about medical ninjutsu and combat. She knew when Sakura was troubled. Sakura, Tsunade greeted her warmly. What brings you here? Sakura took a breath, her green eyes serious. I heard about the council meeting. About their suggestions for Naruto. Word travels fast, Tsunade observed. Ino heard it from Shikamaru, who heard it from his dad, Sakura explained. And she told me because she knew I'd want to know. Tsunade gestured for her to sit. And what are your thoughts on the matter? Sakura was quiet for a moment, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. I've loved Naruto for a long time, she said finally. Not at first. At first, I was shallow and stupid and only cared about Sasuke. But Naruto never gave up on me, even when I didn't deserve his loyalty. And over the years, I've come to see him for who he really is. Tsunade felt her chest tighten. She'd known Sakura had feelings for Naruto, but hearing it stated so plainly made it real in a way she hadn't prepared for. Have you told him? She asked, keeping her voice neutral, not directly. I thought. Sakura's voice wavered slightly. I thought after the war, there would be time. That things would settle down, and I could figure out how to tell him. But now the council is pushing for political marriages, and I'm worried I've waited too long. Sakura, Tsunade said gently, Naruto isn't going to let the council dictate his personal life. You know him better than that. I know. But that's not what I'm worried about. Sakura looked up, and there were tears in her eyes. I'm worried that even if I tell him, I won't be enough. That the village needs him to marry for political reasons, and my feelings won't matter in the grand scheme of things. Tsunade understood that fear all too well. Hadn't she been thinking the same thing about herself? Your feelings always matter, she said firmly. And if Naruto cares about you, which I believe he does, then they'll matter to him too. But what if he cares about someone else more? Sakura's voice was small, vulnerable in a way that reminded Tsunade of the young girl who'd first asked to be her student. Then you'll deal with it. You're strong, Sakura. Stronger than you give yourself credit for. Tsunade paused, then added more softly. But I don't think you need to worry about Naruto not caring. He's cared about you since you were all genin. Sakura wiped at her eyes, managing a shaky smile. Shursho, can I ask you something personal? Tsunade tensed, suspecting where this was going. You can ask. Do you have feelings for Naruto? The question was direct, unavoidable. Tsunade could lie, could deflect, could remind Sakura that such questions were inappropriate. But looking at her student's earnest face, she found she couldn't do it. Yes, she said simply. Though I'm still trying to figure out what to do about them. Sakura's expression was complicated, surprise, understanding, and something that might have been resignation. I thought so. The way you've been protecting him in council meetings. The way you look at him when you think no one's watching. I'm sorry, Tsunade said, though she wasn't sure what she was apologizing for. Don't be. Sakura straightened her shoulders, gathering herself. I asked because I needed to know what I was dealing with. And because, she hesitated, then continued, because if the council is seriously suggesting the Clan Restoration Act, then maybe the answer isn't choosing between people. Maybe it's finding a way for everyone who cares about Naruto to support him. Tsunade stared at her student, shocked. Are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting? I'm suggesting that I love Naruto enough to share him if it means he gets to be happy, Sakura said quietly. I'm suggesting that maybe the traditional way of doing things, one husband, one wife, isn't the only path forward. And I'm suggesting that if you have feelings for him too, maybe we should be talking to each other instead of competing. It was such a Sakura solution, direct, unconventional, and somehow both practical and emotional at the same time. Tsunade felt a surge of pride in her student, even as her mind reeled at the implications. That's a very mature perspective, she said carefully. But it's also incredibly complicated. Are you sure you've thought this through? No, Sakura admitted. I'm terrified, actually. But I'm more terrified of doing nothing and regretting it for the rest of my life. You taught me to be brave, Shursho. This is me being brave. Tsunade felt her throat tighten with emotion. When did you grow up so much? You taught me that too. Sakura stood, bowing formally. I should go. I have a shift at the hospital. But think about what I said. Please? After Sakura left, Tsunade sat in stunned silence. Shizen was looking at her with an expression that clearly said I told you so, but had the grace not to say it aloud. Well, Tsunade finally said, that was unexpected, was it? Shizen asked mildly. Sakura's always been perceptive. And she's right about one thing. If this arrangement is going to work, the people involved need to communicate openly. Tsunade poured herself another drink, her mind whirling. The idea of actually pursuing this, of being part of some formal arrangement with Naruto and potentially others, seemed absurd. She was Tsunade Senju, the legendary fifth Hokage. She didn't share. Except, hadn't she already shared in a way? She'd loved Dan while Jiraiya loved her. The triangle had never been formal, but it had existed nonetheless. And in the end, her refusal to acknowledge it had led to decades of regret. Maybe Sakura was right. Maybe the traditional paths weren't the only options. But even if she could accept that intellectually, could she actually do it? Could she stand beside Naruto as one of several women in his life, sharing his attention and affection? The thought should have filled her with jealousy or disgust. Instead, she found herself thinking about Sakura's words, finding a way for everyone who cares about Naruto to support him. What if it wasn't about sharing or competing, but about building something new? Something that honored genuine connections rather than forcing people into restrictive boxes? It was a radical thought. A dangerous one. But then again, Naruto had built his entire life on radical, dangerous thoughts. And somehow, he made them work. Tsunade stood and walked to the window, looking out over the village she'd protected for so long. Soon, it would be Naruto's responsibility. And whatever form his personal life took, he would need people around him who genuinely cared, who would support him through the impossible challenges ahead. Could she be one of those people? Not as the stern Hokage or the distant mentor, but as someone who openly acknowledged caring for him? The sun was setting again, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, Naruto's colors, she thought with a small smile. A new day was ending, but tomorrow would bring new possibilities. And for the first time in decades, Tsunade found herself looking forward to them. Naruto sat on the roof of the Hokage Tower, his legs dangling over the edge as he watched the sunset paint Konoha in brilliant hues. The wind tugged at his hair, carrying the familiar sense of ramen from Ichirakas and the cherry blossoms that bloomed throughout the village despite the season being wrong for them. A lingering effect of Sakura's chakra-infused medical techniques, some said. He'd been avoiding people all day. After that disaster of a council meeting, he needed space to think. The Clan Restoration Act. Multiple marriages. Political alliances disguised as personal relationships. It was enough to make his head spin. I knew I'd find you up here. Naruto didn't turn around, recognizing Sakura's voice immediately. You always could track me down. She settled beside him, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. For a moment, they sat in companionable silence, watching the village below transition from day to night. Street lamps flickered to life, and Naruto could see people heading home from work, children being called in for dinner, the ordinary rhythms of peace. He'd fought so hard for this peace. And now the council wanted to complicate it with politics and duty and traditions he barely understood. Ino told me about the meeting, Sakura said finally. About what they proposed. Of course she had. The Yamanaka clan specialized in gathering information, and Ino had never been good at keeping secrets from her best friend. And what do you think about it? Sakura was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was careful, measured. I think the council has a point about clan restoration, even if their approach is archaic. But I also think they're treating you like a political tool instead of a person. That's what I said. More or less. Naruto picked up a pebble and tossed it off the roof, watching it disappear into the shadows below. They want me to marry for the village. Multiple times, apparently. Would that be so terrible? Sakura's voice was soft, almost hesitant. Naruto finally looked at her. In the fading light, her green eyes seemed to glow, and he was struck by how beautiful she'd become. Not just physically, though she was definitely that, but in the way she carried herself. strong, confident, capable. Nothing like the girl who'd once begged Sasuke to take her with him. I don't know, he admitted. Part of me thinks it's insane. But another part. He trailed off, unsure how to articulate the strange appeal the idea held. Another part thinks it might be a way to have everything you want without having to choose? Sakura supplied. Naruto's eyes widened. How did you? Because I know you, Naruto. She smiled sadly. You've never been good at leaving people behind. The idea of choosing one person and disappointing everyone else? That would tear you apart. It was uncomfortably accurate. Naruto had spent his entire life trying to protect everyone, to make everyone happy. The thought of having to reject people he cared about, of causing them pain through his choice, made his chest tight. That's a terrible reason to consider multiple marriages, he said. Maybe. Or maybe it's honest. Sakura pulled her knees up to her chest, wrapping her arms around them. Naruto, I need to tell you something. Something I should have said a long time ago. There was something in her tone that made Naruto's pulse quicken. He'd heard Sakura use many voices over the years, angry, determined, professional, playful. But this was different. Vulnerable. Okay, he said quietly. Sakura took a deep breath, as if gathering courage. I love you. The words hung in the air between them, simple and profound. Naruto felt his heart stutter in his chest. I know you loved me when we were kids, Sakura continued, not looking at him. When I was too blind and stupid to see what was right in front of me. I know I hurt you by chasing after Sasuke, by dismissing your feelings, by taking you for granted. And I know I have no right to expect you to still feel the same way after everything. Sakura-chan, please let me finish. She finally turned to face him, and there were tears gathering in her eyes. I'm not that girl anymore. I've grown up. I've seen you risk everything for this village, for your friends, for complete strangers. I've watched you achieve impossible things through sheer determination and kindness. And somewhere along the way, I fell in love with you. Really in love, not the childish crush I had on Sasuke. Naruto felt like the world had tilted on its axis. He'd dreamed of hearing these words from Sakura when they were younger. He'd imagined this moment 1,000 times. But now that it was happening, he found he didn't know what to say. I know the timing is terrible, Sakura said with a watery laugh. The council just proposed you marry multiple people for political reasons. And here I am confessing my feelings like some romantic comedy. But I couldn't not tell you. Not when there's a chance you might end up married to someone you don't even care about. I care about you, Naruto said, finally finding his voice. I've always cared about you. But do you love me? Sakura's voice was barely a whisper. The way I love you? It was a fair question, and it deserved an honest answer. Naruto thought about his feelings for Sakura. The way she made him laugh. The way he trusted her in battle without question. The way her smile could brighten his worst days. He thought about the jealousy he'd felt when she fawned over Sasuke. The protectiveness that made him want to shield her from every danger. But he also thought about Hinata's quiet devotion. About the way her presence soothed something restless in him. He thought about Tsunade's sharp wit and hidden vulnerability. About the strange pull he felt toward her that he didn't fully understand. I don't know, he admitted. And that's probably not what you want to hear. But I'm trying to be honest. I care about you so much, Sakura-chan. You're one of my precious people. But I also have feelings for others. And I'm trying to figure out what that means. To his surprise, Sakura didn't look hurt. Instead, she nodded as if she'd expected this answer. Can I ask who? Naruto hesitated, but if they were being honest. Hinata. And Tsunade-bachan. Sakura's eyebrows rose at the second name, but again, she didn't look shocked. I thought so. About Tsunade-sama, I mean. Hinata's feelings have been obvious for years. You're not mad? I'm terrified, Sakura corrected. But I'm not mad. Because here's the thing, Naruto. I've been thinking about what the council proposed. About the Clan Restoration Act. And as much as I hate the idea of sharing you. She paused, swallowing hard. I hate the idea of losing you more. Naruto stared at her. What are you saying? I'm saying that if you decide to pursue that path, if you decide to have multiple wives or partners or whatever the formal term is, I want to be considered. I want a chance to be part of your life, even if it means sharing you with others. Sakura-chan, you can't just. Why not? She turned to face him fully now, her tears forgotten, replaced by the fierce determination he recognized from countless battles. Who says there's only one right way to love someone? Who says I can't be happy sharing you if it means I get to be with you at all? But you deserve someone who can give you everything, Naruto protested. Someone who isn't divided between multiple people. I deserve to make my own choices about what I want, Sakura countered. And what I want is you. If that means sharing, then I'll learn to share. If it means being part of something unconventional, then I'll be unconventional. She reached out and grabbed his hand, her grip strong. I'm a kunoichi. I've faced death, I've saved lives, I've fought in a war. I'm not some delicate flower who needs to be protected from complicated situations. Naruto looked down at their joined hands, feeling the calluses on her fingers that matched his own. She was right, Sakura was strong. Stronger than most people gave her credit for. What about Hinata? He asked quietly. And Tsunade-bachan? What if they don't want this? Then we talk to them. We figure it out together, like adults. Sakura's smile was shaky but genuine. I actually spoke to Tsunade-sama earlier today. I told her about my feelings for you, and I asked if she had feelings for you too. Naruto's head snapped up. You what? She said yes, by the way. She has feelings for you. Sakura squeezed his hand. And before you panic, we didn't fight or compete or anything dramatic. We talked about how if this is going to work, everyone involved needs to communicate openly. Naruto's mind was reeling. Tsunade had feelings for him. Sakura knew and wasn't angry. They talked about sharing him like it was a reasonable possibility rather than something insane. This is crazy, he said faintly. Maybe. But when have we ever done things the normal way? Sakura shifted closer, resting her head on his shoulder. You taught me that, you know. That the impossible is just what nobody's managed yet. They sat like that for a while, watching the stars appear one by one in the darkening sky. Naruto tried to process everything. Sakura's confession, her willingness to share, the revelation about Tsunade's feelings. It was overwhelming, but there was also something comforting about it. What about you? Sakura asked eventually. What do you actually want, Naruto? Not what the council wants, not what's politically convenient. What would make you happy? It was the same question Tsunade had asked him. And maybe he was finally starting to understand the answer. I want people around me who I trust completely, he said slowly. People who see me as Naruto, not just the Jinchuriki or the hero or the future Hokage. People who call me out when I'm being an idiot and support me when things get hard. He paused. People I love and who love me back. That sounds like a good foundation, Sakura said softly. But I don't want anyone to feel like they're settling or compromising their own happiness for mine. If we do this, if I consider the Clan Restoration Act, it has to be because everyone involved genuinely wants it. Not because of duty or politics or fear of being alone. Agreed. Sakura lifted her head to look at him. So what's the next step? Naruto thought about it. I need to talk to Hinata. She's been in love with me since we were kids, and she deserves honesty about what I'm feeling and considering. And I should probably talk to Tsunade-bachan too, even though that's going to be awkward as hell. It doesn't have to be awkward, Sakura said. Just be yourself. That's what made me fall for you in the first place. Naruto felt warmth spread through his chest at her words. Maybe he didn't know exactly what love was supposed to feel like, but this connection, this trust, this desire to make her happy, surely that was part of it. Sakura-chan, he said quietly. Thank you for being honest with me. For not running away when things got complicated. You never ran away from me, even when I gave you every reason to, Sakura replied. I'm just returning the favor. She leaned in slowly, giving him time to pull away if he wanted. Naruto didn't want to. When her lips met his, it was soft and sweet and somehow both familiar and new. He'd imagined kissing Sakura countless times as a kid, but the reality was better, less about fantasy and more about connection. About two people who'd grown up together finally acknowledging what had been building between them. When they pulled apart, Sakura was smiling, though her eyes were bright with tears again. I've wanted to do that for so long. Yeah? Naruto couldn't help grinning. It was worth the wait. They sat together until the stars filled the sky, talking about everything and nothing. Sakura told him about her latest medical research, about a new technique she was developing that could regenerate nerve damage. Naruto told her about his ideas for changing how the village operated, about wanting to create better systems for supporting orphans and outcasts. It was easy, being with Sakura like this. Natural. And Naruto found himself thinking that maybe, just maybe, this crazy idea could actually work. Eventually, Sakura stood, stretching with a yawn. I should get home. I have an early shift at the hospital tomorrow. I'll walk you, Naruto offered, rising as well. Such a gentleman. She was teasing, but her smile was warm. They made their way down from the roof and through the quiet streets. Most of the village had settled in for the night, leaving only the occasional patrol and late-night workers still out. Naruto was hyper-aware of Sakura's presence beside him, of the way her hand occasionally brushed against his. When they reached her apartment building, Sakura turned to face him. Naruto, about what I said earlier, about being willing to share. I meant it, but I also want you to know that whatever you decide, I'll respect it. If you choose to pursue a traditional relationship with one person, if you decide the Clan Restoration Act isn't right for you, I'll understand. But you'll be disappointed, Naruto observed. Maybe a little, she admitted. But I'd rather you be happy and true to yourself than force something just to make me happy. It was so typically Sakura, fierce and caring in equal measure. Naruto reached out and pulled her into a hug, feeling her melt against him. I don't know what's going to happen, he murmured into her hair. But I promise I'll figure it out. And I'll be honest with you every step of the way. That's all I ask? Sakura pulled back enough to look up at him. Well, that and maybe another kiss goodnight? Naruto laughed and obliged, this kiss deeper than the first. When they finally separated, both were breathing a little harder. Go inside before I forget I'm trying to be responsible about this, Naruto said. Sakura's grin was mischievous. Who says I want you to be responsible? Sakura-chan. She laughed and headed toward her door, throwing a wave over her shoulder. Good night, Naruto. Sweet dreams. Naruto waited until she was safely inside before starting the walk back to his own apartment. His mind was churning with everything that had happened. Sakura loved him. Tsunade had feelings for him. The council wanted him to marry multiple women. And somehow, the idea didn't seem as insane as it should have. He was so lost in thought that he almost didn't notice the figure waiting outside his apartment building. But then the moonlight caught on dark hair and pale eyes, and his heart jumped into his throat. Hinata? Hinata Hyuga stood with her hands clasped in front of her, her usual shy posture. But there was something different about her expression, a determination that reminded him of the girl who jumped in front of pain to protect him, who'd confessed her love even when she thought she was going to die. And Naruto-kun, she said softly, I'm sorry to ambush you like this. But I heard about the council meeting and I needed to talk to you. Naruto's stomach dropped. Of course news would have reached the Hyuga clan. Hayashi had been at the meeting, after all, and had even suggested Hinata as a potential match. How much do you know? He asked carefully. Enough. Hinata took a deep breath, visibly steeling herself. I know about the Clan Restoration Act. About the council's suggestions. And I know that my father indicated I would be amenable to an arrangement. Hinata, you don't have to. Please let me finish. Her voice was stronger than he'd ever heard it. I've loved you since we were children, Naruto-kun. You know that. I told you during the pain attack, and I've never hidden it since. But I also know that you've never felt the same way about me. That's not true, Naruto protested. I care about you, Hinata. A lot, I know you care. But there's a difference between caring and being in love. Hinata's smile was sad but accepting. I've seen the way you look at Sakura-san. The way you interact with Tsunade-sama. You have feelings for them that you've never had for me. Naruto wanted to deny it, but the honesty in Hinata's eyes stopped him. She deserved better than lies. I'm sorry, he said quietly. Don't be. Hinata stepped closer, and in the moonlight, he could see the determination in her pale eyes. I didn't come here to make you feel guilty. I came here to tell you that if you decide to pursue the Clan Restoration Act, I still want to be considered. Naruto stared at her, shocked. What? But you just said, I said you're not in love with me? Not yet. Hinata's hands were trembling, but her voice stayed steady. But the thing is, Naruto-kun, I believe that love can grow. I believe that if given the chance, we could build something real together. And I'm willing to share you with others if it means I get that chance. Hinata, you shouldn't have to settle for. I'm not settling. For the first time, there was a hint of steel in her voice. I'm choosing to fight for what I want instead of passively accepting that I can't have it. You taught me that, Naruto-kun. You taught me to be brave. Naruto felt his throat tighten. This was Hinata, kind, gentle Hinata, standing before him and declaring her intentions with a courage that took his breath away. I don't want you to get hurt, he said. If I can't give you what you deserve, what I deserve is to make my own choices about my own life, Hinata interrupted. And I choose you. Even if it's complicated. Even if I have to share. Even if you never love me the way I love you. She paused, then added more softly, but I hope you will. Someday. Naruto didn't know what to say. In the space of one evening, both Sakura and Hinata had confessed their feelings and declared their willingness to be part of this insane arrangement. It was overwhelming and humbling and terrifying all at once. I need time, he said finally, to think about all of this. To figure out what I really want and what's fair to everyone involved. I understand. Hinata bowed formally. Thank you for listening, Naruto-kun. And whatever you decide, I'll respect it. She turned to leave, but Naruto reached out and caught her hand. She looked back at him, surprised. Hinata, he said, you're amazing. You know that, right? The fact that you can stand here and be this honest, this brave, it's incredible. A blush spread across her cheeks, but she didn't look away. I learned from the best. After she left, Naruto stood outside his apartment for a long time, staring up at the stars. His life had become impossibly complicated in the space of a few days. The council wanted him to marry for politics. Sakura had confessed her love and offered to share. Hinata had done the same. And somewhere in all of this was Tsunade, who apparently had feelings for him too. It should have felt like pressure, like being trapped by everyone's expectations and desires. But instead, Naruto felt something else, possibility. What if the council's archaic tradition could actually be twisted into something meaningful? What if instead of political marriages, he could build genuine relationships with people he actually cared about? What if being Hokage didn't mean sacrificing his personal happiness after all? It was a crazy idea. But then again, his entire life had been built on crazy ideas. Naruto finally went inside and collapsed onto his bed, exhausted but unable to sleep. His mind kept spinning through conversations, implications, possibilities. He thought about Sakura's fierce declaration, Hinata's quiet courage, Tsunade's hidden vulnerability. He thought about what it would mean to actually pursue the Clan Restoration Act. The logistics of multiple relationships, the emotional complexity, the political ramifications. It wouldn't be easy, nothing worthwhile ever was. But maybe, just maybe, it could be worth it. As Naruto finally drifted off to sleep, his last conscious thought was that tomorrow, he needed to talk to Tsunade, because if they were going to do this, if they were going to build something real out of the council's political maneuvering, it had to include her. And that conversation was going to be the hardest one yet. Tsunade stared at the formal document on her desk, her jaw clenched so tightly she could feel her teeth grinding. Behind her, Shizen hovered nervously, while across the desk sat Hamura and Koharu, looking entirely too pleased with themselves. You can't be serious, Tsunade said, her voice dangerously quiet. We are entirely serious, Koharu replied, her thin lips pressed into a prim line. The council has voted, and the decision is final. Given the current political climate and the necessity of strengthening village alliances, Naruto Uzumaki will be required to enter into formal marriage negotiations within 3 months. Required? Tsunade's chakra flared, causing the papers on her desk to flutter. He's a war hero, not a political bargaining chip. He is the future Hokage, Hamura said calmly, adjusting his glasses. And as such, his personal choices have political implications. The council is simply ensuring those implications serve the village's best interests. Tsunade stood abruptly, her chair scraping across the floor. The council is overstepping its authority. Marriage is a personal matter, not when it involves clan restoration and village security, Koharu interrupted. We have historical precedent for this, Tsunade. During the Warring States period, strategic marriages were essential for maintaining alliances. The same principle applies now. The Warring States period ended decades ago, and yet we face new challenges that require old solutions. Hamura slid another document across the desk. This is the official implementation of the Clan Restoration Act as it pertains to Naruto Uzumaki. The council has approved the formation of a formal marriage contract involving multiple partners, provided certain conditions are met. Tsunade snatched up the document, scanning it quickly. Her eyes widened as she read the conditions. Minimum of 3 partners to ensure genetic diversity and political coverage, at least 1 partner from a major clan, Hyuga, Aburame, Akimichi, etc. At least 1 partner with Senju lineage or equivalent bloodline. All partners must consent freely and undergo psychological evaluation. Formal ceremony to be conducted within 6 months of engagement. First child to be born within 2 years of marriage. This is insane, Tsunade breathed. You're treating him like a breeding stallion. We're ensuring the village's future, Koharu corrected. The Uzumaki clan is nearly extinct. The Senju bloodline exists only through you, and you have shown no interest in producing heirs. If Naruto's children could carry both bloodlines, my reproductive choices are none of your business. Tsunade slammed her fist on the desk, cracking the wood. And neither are Naruto's. Hamura remained infuriatingly calm. As Hokage, you should understand the necessity of sacrifice for the greater good. Naruto has already sacrificed much for this village. Surely he can sacrifice his freedom of choice in matters of marriage as well. That's not sacrifice, that's coercion. Tsunade's voice dropped to a lethal whisper. And if you think I'm going to stand here and let you manipulate that boy, you won't be Hokage much longer, Koharu reminded her coldly. Your resignation is effective in 2 weeks. After that, you'll have no official authority to oppose council decisions. The words hit like a physical blow. Tsunade had been so focused on the content of the decree that she hadn't considered the timing. They'd waited until she was almost out of power before making their move. Naruto could refuse, Shizen said quietly from behind her. He's not Hokage yet. He has no obligation to follow council orders. True, Hamura acknowledged. But the council could also decline to approve his nomination as 6th Hokage. We have that authority as well. Tsunade's hands clenched into fists. You're blackmailing him. Marry who we choose, or you don't become Hokage. We prefer to think of it as incentivizing cooperation. Koharu's smile was razor thin. Besides, we're not choosing his partners. We're simply establishing parameters. Naruto is free to select anyone who meets the criteria. And if he chooses people you don't approve of, then the council will exercise its right to review and potentially veto unsuitable candidates. Hamura stood, clearly considering the meeting over. We're not unreasonable, Tsunade. We simply want what's best for the village. Surely you can understand that. After they left, Tsunade collapsed back into her chair, feeling every one of her years pressing down on her. Shizen immediately moved to her side, placing a concerned hand on her shoulder. This is worse than I thought, Tsunade muttered. What are you going to do? I don't know. Tsunade rubbed her temples, trying to ward off the headache building behind her eyes. If I oppose them openly, they'll accelerate the timeline or find other ways to pressure Naruto. If I do nothing, they'll steamroll him into a situation he's not ready for. You could talk to him, Shizen suggested. Warn him about what's coming. He needs to hear it from the council, not from me. If I'm the one who tells him, it'll seem like I'm trying to manipulate the situation for my own benefit. Tsunade stood and walked to the window, staring out at the village. Especially given recent developments. Shizen followed her gaze. You mean your feelings for him? Among other things. Tsunade sighed. Sakura came to see me. She confessed her feelings for Naruto, and said she'd be willing to share him if it came to that. She also somehow figured out that I have feelings for him too. Sakura's always been perceptive. She's also brave as hell. Standing there, telling me she loves the same man I'm falling for, and suggesting we work together instead of competing. Tsunade shook her head in wonder. When did she become so mature? You trained her well. Maybe too well. Tsunade turned back to face Shizen. The thing is, if the council's decree stands, and Naruto has to marry multiple partners anyway, should I throw my hat in the ring, or would that be taking advantage of the situation? Shizen considered the question carefully. Do you love him? I think so. Which is terrifying. Tsunade's laugh was bitter. I'm 51 years old, Shizen. I look younger thanks to my jutsu, but I'm still old enough to be his mother. The age gap alone is less important than you think, Shizen interrupted gently. You're both adults. You're both shinobi who've seen more death and destruction than most people experience in multiple lifetimes. Age is just a number. The village won't see it that way. The village didn't see Naruto becoming a hero as possible either. He has a talent for defying expectations. Shizen's smile was encouraging. Besides, if the council is forcing him into this situation anyway, wouldn't it be better if at least one of his partners was someone he actually cares about? Someone who cares about him. Tsunade wanted to argue, but she couldn't find the words. Because Shizen was right. If Naruto was going to be pushed into multiple marriages regardless, wasn't it better that some of those marriages be based on genuine feeling rather than pure politics? I need to talk to him, Tsunade decided. Before the council drops this bomb on him. Not to influence his decision, but to... I don't know. Make sure he knows he has support, whatever he decides. When? Tonight. After the council makes their announcement. Tsunade glanced at the clock. Which should be happening right about now. Naruto sat in the small conference room, surrounded by council members and clan heads. He'd been summoned with little explanation, just an urgent request to attend an emergency meeting. Now, listening to Hamura drone on about village security and clan obligations, he was starting to get a bad feeling, which is why the council has voted to implement the Clan Restoration Act in your case, Naruto-kun. Hamura pushed a document across the table. These are the terms. Naruto picked up the paper, his eyes scanning the dense text. With each line he read, his expression grew darker. You're ordering me to get married? His voice was dangerously quiet. To multiple people? Within 6 months? We're creating a framework for you to restore your clan and strengthen village alliances, Koharu corrected. The specific partners are your choice, provided they meet certain criteria. Criteria you've decided on. Naruto's hands crumpled the edges of the document. This is insane. You can't just order people to get married. We can when it involves the future Hokage and matters of village security, Hamura said calmly. This is not negotiable, Naruto-kun. Everything's negotiable. Naruto stood abruptly, his chair clattering backward. I'm not some prize bull you can breed for the village's benefit. Watch your tone, Koharu snapped. We are your elders and council members. You will show respect. Respect? Naruto's blue eyes flashed with anger. You want respect while you're trying to control my personal life? While you're threatening to block my nomination as Hokage if I don't comply? A heavy silence fell over the room. Several of the clan heads shifted uncomfortably, not meeting Naruto's gaze. We had hoped you would see reason, Hamura said finally. That you would understand the necessity of this decision. The only thing I understand is that you're scared. Naruto's voice was hard. The war just ended. The village is still recovering, and instead of focusing on rebuilding, you're trying to control the one thing you can, me. Because you can't control the future, so you're trying to control who I marry and what children I have. That is not, Koharu began, but Naruto cut her off. It is exactly that. And you know what? I'm not doing it. I'm not marrying anyone because you ordered me to. I'm not having children on your timeline, and if that means you block my nomination as Hokage then fine. I'll find another way to protect this village. He turned to leave, but Hayashi Hyuga's voice stopped him. Naruto-kun. The Hyuga clan head's tone was measured. I understand your anger. This decision was not made lightly, and many of us had reservations about the approach. However, you should know that the concern about clan restoration is legitimate. Naruto turned back, his jaw still clenched. The Uzumaki clan's sealing techniques are legendary, Hayashi continued. Your bloodline carries abilities that could greatly benefit future generations. The same is true of the Senju heritage that flows through Tsunade-sama. These are not just political considerations, they are practical ones. So I should just accept being treated like breeding stock? Naruto challenged. No. Surprisingly, it was Shikaku Nara who spoke up. You should negotiate better terms. All eyes turned to the Nara clan head, who looked as bored as ever despite the tension in the room. The council has overplayed their hand, Shikaku continued, stifling a yawn. Threatening to block your Hokage nomination if you don't comply? That's pure intimidation, and it won't stand up to scrutiny. The village wants you as Hokage. The council can't simply override popular will. Then what are you suggesting? Hamura's eyes narrowed. I'm suggesting that if we're going to implement the Clan Restoration Act, we do it properly. Not as a mandate, but as a framework that Naruto can choose to utilize or not. Shikaku leaned back in his chair. Remove the threats. Remove the timeline pressure. Give him the option to pursue multiple marriages if he wants to, but make it clear it's his choice. That defeats the entire purpose, Kohara protested. Does it? Or does it just mean you don't get to control every aspect of his life? Shikaku's smile was sharp. Think about it from a practical standpoint. If Naruto marries under duress, those marriages will be unstable. Resentment will build. Children born from such unions may suffer. But if he chooses this path willingly, with partners he genuinely cares about, the result will be much stronger. Some Inuzuka snorted. The Nara makes a good point. Forced pair bonds never work. We learned that the hard way in the Inuzuka clan generations ago. Choza Akimichi nodded his agreement. I too believe we've approached this incorrectly. Naruto deserves the respect we would give any clan head in this situation. The right to make his own choices about his family's future. Naruto watched as the tide seemed to turn in the room. Not all of the council members agreed. Hamura and Kohara looked furious. But enough of the clan heads were nodding that it was clear the original decree wouldn't stand. So what are you proposing? Naruto asked Shikaku directly. That the council officially approves the use of the Clan Restoration Act for your situation, but removes all mandates and timelines. You would have the option to pursue multiple marriage contracts if you choose, with the council's blessing. But it would be entirely your decision, who you marry, when you marry, whether you marry at all. Shikaku's expression turned serious. In exchange, you agree to seriously consider the option and the benefits it could bring to the village. It was a compromise, and Naruto recognized it as such. He wouldn't be forced into anything, but he also wouldn't slam the door on the possibility entirely. And if I choose partners who don't meet your criteria? He asked, gesturing to the document. Then we negotiate, Hayashi said. The criteria were guidelines, not absolutes. If you choose partners who bring value to the village in other ways, the council would likely approve. Likely isn't definitely. Nothing in politics is definite, Shikaku said dryly. But I'd say if you choose partners you genuinely care about who also happen to strengthen the village in some way, whether through bloodline, skill, or political alliance, you'll have the council's support. Naruto looked around the room, studying each face. Some were sympathetic, others calculating, a few still disapproving. But the hostile unanimity from earlier had fractured. I want it in writing, he said finally. That this is optional. That I have final say over any marriage decisions. That the council can advise but not mandate. Agreed, Shikaku said before Hamura or Kohara could object. I'll draft the revised decree myself and have it ready for the council's approval by tomorrow. And the Hokage nomination? Naruto pressed. That's not contingent on this? It never was, Hayashi said firmly, shooting a hard look at the elders. You earned that position through your actions. No one can take it from you. Hamura and Kohara looked like they wanted to argue, but the weight of opposition from the other clan heads silenced them. They'd overreached, and everyone in the room knew it. Fine, Naruto said. I'll consider the option. But on my terms, with people I choose. And if anyone tries to pressure or manipulate the situation. His eyes hardened. Let's just say I've gotten really good at making my displeasure known. The threat was clear, and more than one council member shifted uncomfortably. Naruto Uzumaki in Sage Mode, backed by the full power of the Nine Tails, was not someone anyone wanted to anger. The meeting concluded shortly after, with various council members filing out. Shikaka caught Naruto's arm on the way out. That was well played, the Nara clan had said quietly. Standing your ground without burning bridges. Your father would have been proud. Naruto felt his throat tighten at the unexpected compliment. Thanks, Shikaka-san. Word of advice? Whatever you decide about this marriage situation, decide quickly. Not because of council pressure, but because uncertainty creates opportunity for manipulation. The faster you make a choice and announce it, the less room there is for political games. But I don't know what I want yet, then figure it out. Shikaka's smile was knowing. Talk to the people involved. Be honest about your feelings and what you're considering. You might be surprised how understanding people can be when you treat them with respect. After Shikaka left, Naruto stood alone in the conference room, staring at the revised decree Shikaku had promised to draft. The original document lay crumpled on the table where he'd thrown it. His initial anger had faded, replaced by a strange sense of calm. The council had tried to control him and failed. Now he actually had a choice. A real choice, not one made under duress. But that choice was complicated by the very real feelings involved. Sakura loved him, and wanted to be part of this. Hinata felt the same. And Tsunade. Tsunade had feelings for him too, according to Sakura, though they hadn't talked about it directly yet. Could he really pursue all three? Was that even fair to them, even if they said they were willing? His head was spinning with questions when he felt a familiar chakra signature approaching. Moments later, Tsunade appeared in the doorway, her expression carefully neutral. I heard about the meeting, she said without preamble. Shizen has spies everywhere. Yeah, it was intense. Naruto gestured to the crumpled decree. They tried to order me to get married. Multiple times. With specific criteria and timelines. Tsunade's expression darkened. I saw the original decree this morning. I was coming to warn you, but they moved faster than I expected. Shikaka helped me negotiate better terms. Now it's optional instead of mandatory. Good. Tsunade entered the room fully, closing the door behind her. Naruto, we need to talk. His heart started pounding. About what happened the other night. About everything. Tsunade moved to sit across from him, her movements uncharacteristically hesitant. About my feelings. About this insane situation the council has created. About what you're actually considering doing. Naruto swallowed hard. Sakura-chan told me she talked to you. That you admitted having feelings for me. She did. And I do. Tsunade's honey-colored eyes met his directly. Which is why I need to make sure you understand something. Whatever you decide about this marriage situation, it has to be your choice. Not because I want it, not because Sakura or Hinata want it, but because you genuinely believe it's right for you. What do you want? Naruto asked quietly. If I am considering using the Clan Restoration Act, would you want to be part of that? Tsunade was silent for a long moment, and Naruto could see the conflict playing across her face. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. Yes. Which terrifies me, if I'm being honest. Why? Because I'm supposed to be the wise, experienced one. I'm supposed to tell you this is crazy, and help you find a more conventional path. Instead, I'm sitting here admitting that I want to be with you, even if it means sharing you with others. Tsunade laughed bitterly. Some role model I am. You're the best role model I could ask for, Naruto said firmly. Because you're being honest instead of pretending to be perfect. Because you're letting me see the real you instead of hiding behind the Hokage title. The real me is a mess, Naruto. I'm haunted by loss, prone to gambling away my money, and old enough to be your mother. The real you saved my life more times than I can count. Taught me that strength isn't just about power. Showed me what it means to protect people even when you're terrified. Naruto reached across the table and took her hand. The real you is exactly who I want. Tsunade's breath hitched, and Naruto saw tears gathering in her eyes. You don't know what you're saying. I know exactly what I'm saying. I've been thinking about this for months, Tsunade-bachan. At first I thought it was just respect or admiration or some messed up surrogate family thing. But it's not. It's more than that. Don't call me Bachan if you're going to confess your feelings, Tsunade said, but there was no heat in it. It makes this even weirder than it already is. Fine. Tsunade. Her name felt strange on his tongue in this context, intimate in a way it never had before. I have feelings for you. Real ones, and I'm pretty sure they're not going away just because they're inconvenient. This is insane, Tsunade said, but she didn't pull her hand away. We're insane, maybe. But I've built my whole life on doing insane things that everyone said were impossible. Naruto squeezed her hand gently. Why should this be any different? Tsunade studied him for a long moment, and Naruto could see her walls crumbling. Finally she stood, pulling him to his feet and into her arms. The hug was tight, almost desperate, and Naruto wrapped his arms around her in return. If we do this, Tsunade murmured into his shoulder, if you seriously pursue the clan restoration act with multiple partners, we need rules. Boundaries. Complete honesty with everyone involved. Agreed, and I need you to promise me something. Tsunade pulled back enough to look at him. Promise me you're doing this because you want to, not because the council pressured you or because you feel obligated to make everyone happy. I promise, Naruto said solemnly. I'm still figuring out exactly what I want, but I know I want you to be part of it. You, Sakura-chan, and Hinata. If you're all willing. That's a lot of strong-willed women for one man to handle, Tsunade observed dryly. Good thing I've never backed down from a challenge. Despite everything, Tsunade laughed. It was a real laugh, free of the bitterness and sadness that usually tinged her voice. And hearing it made something in Naruto's chest warm. You're going to drive me crazy, she said. Probably. But you'll do the same to me, so I figure we're even. Tsunade shook her head, but she was smiling. We should talk to Sakura and Hinata. All of us together. If this is going to work, we need to be on the same page from the start. Tomorrow? Naruto suggested. After I've had time to process everything that happened today? Tomorrow, Tsunade agreed. I'll arrange a private meeting. Somewhere we can talk without the entire village gossiping about it. She started to pull away, but Naruto kept hold of her hand. Tsunade? Thank you. For being honest with me. For not running away even though this is complicated. I've spent enough of my life running, Tsunade said quietly. Maybe it's time I stood still and dealt with my feelings instead. After she left, Naruto sat alone in the conference room once more, but this time he felt different. The weight of the council's expectations was still there, but so was something else, possibility. Hope. He was going to pursue the Clan Restoration Act. Not because the council ordered it, but because it felt right. Because it gave him a chance to be with multiple people he cared deeply about, to build something new and unconventional that somehow felt more honest than any traditional arrangement. It would be complicated. There would be challenges and conflicts and moments of doubt. But Naruto had never chosen the easy path, and somehow, he didn't think he was going to start now. The private training ground was secluded, nestled in a quiet corner of the village where the forest grew thick and the sound of civilization faded to a distant murmur. Tsunade had chosen it specifically for this meeting, far enough from prying eyes that they could speak freely, but still within village boundaries should anything go wrong. Not that she expected violence. Just emotional explosions, perhaps. She arrived first, as planned, and spent the time setting up privacy seals around the perimeter. The last thing they needed was some ANBU guard or curious genin overhearing this conversation. When she finished, she sat on one of the large rocks that dotted the clearing and tried to calm her racing heart. This was happening. She was actually going to sit down with two other women and discuss sharing the man they all had feelings for. It was surreal. Insane. And yet somehow, it felt more honest than any relationship she'd had in decades. Sakura arrived next, looking nervous but determined. She wore her standard combat outfit rather than anything formal, a choice Tsunade approved of. This wasn't a political negotiation, it was a conversation between equals. Tsunade-sama, Sakura greeted her, then paused. Or should I call you something else? Given the circumstances, Tsunade is fine. We're not in a formal setting. She gestured to another rock. Sit. We're waiting for Hinata and Naruto. Sakura settled beside her, fidgeting with a kunai pouch. I'm nervous, she admitted. I've fought in a war, performed impossible surgeries, faced death more times than I can count. But this terrifies me. Because fighting is simple, Tsunade observed. Enemy attacks, you defend. patient is dying, you heal them. But feelings? Relationships? Those are complicated. How are you so calm about this? Tsunade laughed darkly. I'm not. I'm just better at hiding it after decades of practice. Before Sakura could respond, Hinata emerged from the tree line. The Hyuga heiress moved with her characteristic grace, but Tsunade could see the tension in her shoulders. Her pale eyes swept the clearing, taking in the privacy seals with obvious approval. Hinata, Tsunade greeted her. Thank you for coming. Of course, Tsunade-sama. Hinata bowed formally, then offered a smaller bow to Sakura. Sakura-san. Just Sakura is fine, Sakura said with a tentative smile. We're in this together, I guess. An awkward silence fell over the group. 3 women, all strong in their own ways, all in love with the same man, sitting together and trying to figure out how to make an impossible situation work. This is weird, Sakura said finally. Very weird, Hinata agreed softly. Completely insane, Tsunade added. Then, despite everything, she found herself smiling. But then again, falling for Naruto Uzumaki was probably our first mistake. The boy, the man, has never done anything the conventional way. That broke the tension. Sakura laughed, and even Hinata cracked a small smile. He really doesn't, Hinata murmured. I've loved him since we were children, and not once has he been predictable. Try training him in medical ninjutsu, Sakura said. He turned a healing technique into an offensive weapon within a week. I'm still not sure how. He used my own jutsu to punch me through 3 buildings once, Tsunade recalled. I was furious and proud in equal measure. They were still sharing stories when Naruto himself arrived, looking characteristically disheveled and out of breath. His blonde hair stuck up in all directions, and there was a ramen stain on his jacket that suggested he'd stopped for food on the way. Sorry I'm late, he called out. Tuchi-san wanted to talk about expanding Ichiraku's, and I couldn't just. He stopped abruptly when he saw all 3 women staring at him. Hi. Sit down, brat, Tsunade said, though her tone was fond. We've been waiting. Naruto moved to the center of the clearing, looking uncharacteristically nervous as he sat cross-legged on the ground. The 3 women formed a loose semicircle around him, and Tsunade could see him taking in each of their expressions. So he started, then stopped. This is really happening, huh? It would appear so, Tsunade said. Unless one of us has come to their senses in the last 24 hours? She looked at Sakura and Hinata. Both women shook their heads. I'm still in, Sakura said firmly. As am I, Hinata added quietly. Naruto let out a breath he seemed to have been holding. Okay, good. Because I've been thinking about this non-stop, and I want this. I want all of you, which sounds greedy when I say it out loud, but it's not greedy if we're all choosing this, Sakura interrupted. That's what I've been telling myself, anyway. How do we even start this conversation? Hinata asked, her voice barely above a whisper. There's no protocol for this. We start with honesty, Tsunade decided. She'd been thinking about this all night, preparing herself. Complete brutal honesty, because if this arrangement is going to work, we can't afford secrets or hidden resentments. Agreed, Sakura said. So I'll go first. I love Naruto. I've loved him for years, though I was too stupid to realize it at first. And I'm willing to share him with both of you because, she paused, gathering her thoughts. Because I'd rather have part of him than none of him. And because I genuinely believe we could all be happy together, if we work at it. Hinata went next, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. I've loved Naruto-kun since we were children. He saved me, not just physically but emotionally. He showed me it was okay to be strong, to stand up for myself. I'm willing to share because loving him means wanting him to be happy, and if being with all of us makes him happy, then I'll find a way to be okay with that. Both women looked at Tsunade expectantly. She took a deep breath, steeling herself. I have feelings for Naruto that I've been trying to ignore for months, she admitted. They're inappropriate by conventional standards. The age gap, the power dynamic, the fact that I was technically his Hokage. But they're real. And I'm tired of running from real things. She met Naruto's eyes directly. I'm willing to try this because Naruto makes me feel alive in a way I haven't felt since before the war. Since before I lost everyone I ever loved. And I'm tired of letting fear keep me from connection. Naruto's expression was almost painfully vulnerable. I don't know if what I feel is love exactly, he said slowly. I've never really been in love before, so I don't have anything to compare it to. But I care about all of you. Deeply. And when I think about the future, about being Hokage and building a family and all of that, I can't imagine doing it without any of you. That's a good start, Tsunade said. But we need to go deeper. We need to talk about expectations, boundaries, jealousy, all the difficult things. Jealousy is a big one, Sakura acknowledged. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't worried about feeling second best or like I'm competing for attention. I worry about that too, Hinata admitted. I've always felt like I was in Sakura-san's shadow. I'm afraid that won't change even in this arrangement. Sakura turned to Hinata, her expression stricken. You were never in my shadow. You're incredibly strong, Hinata. You jumped in front of pain to save Naruto when the rest of us were paralyzed with fear. You mastered the gentle fist in ways your father never expected. You're amazing. Hinata's eyes widened with surprise. You really think so? I know so. And I'm sorry if I ever made you feel lesser. Sakura's sincerity was evident. If we're going to do this, we can't see each other as competition. We have to be allies. Partners even. She's right, Tsunade said. Traditional marriage often pits women against each other for a man's attention and resources. If we fall into that pattern, this will fail. We need to support each other, not undermine each other. How do we do that? Naruto asked. I've never even been in one relationship, let alone 3 at the same time. We establish rules, Tsunade said, falling back on her practical nature. Clear expectations about time, intimacy, decision-making. We set up regular meetings where we can all talk openly about how things are going. We also need to acknowledge that this won't be equal, Sakura added. Not all the time, anyway. Sometimes Naruto will be closer to one of us, or need one of us more than the others. We have to be okay with that ebb and flow. I don't want anyone to feel neglected, Naruto said firmly. That's my biggest fear in all of this, that I'll fail to give each of you what you need. Then we help you, Hinata said, her voice stronger than before. We tell you when we need more time or attention. We don't expect you to read our minds. Communication, Tsunade summarized. That's the foundation of this. We talk about everything, even when it's uncomfortable. Speaking of uncomfortable, Sakura said, we should probably discuss the physical aspects. Intimacy. Because that's going to be complicated. The clearing went very quiet. Naruto's face turned bright red, and even Hinata was blushing furiously. Tsunade felt heat creep up her own neck but forced herself to remain composed. You're right, she said. We can't avoid the topic just because it's awkward. Naruto, do you have thoughts on how to handle that side of things? I haven't really thought that far ahead, Naruto admitted, rubbing the back of his neck. I mean, I've thought about it, but not in any organized way. Maybe we should establish that intimacy happens organically with each person, Sakura suggested. Not on a schedule or rotation, but as feels natural within each relationship. That way no one feels pressured or obligated. And we're open about it, Hinata added quietly. If Naruto-kun is intimate with one of us, the others know. No secrets that could breed resentment. What about children? Tsunade asked, even though the question made her uncomfortable. The council's decree mentioned producing heirs. We should discuss how we feel about that. Sakura's hand moved unconsciously to her stomach. I want children someday. But not right away. There's still so much I want to accomplish in medical research first. I've always wanted a family, Hinata admitted. But I'm also terrified of being a mother. Of passing on the fears and insecurities I struggle with. You'd be an amazing mother, Naruto said immediately. You're kind and patient and strong. Any kid would be lucky to have you. Hinata's eyes filled with tears, but she was smiling. Thank you, Naruto-kun. And you? Naruto looked at Tsunade. Do you want children? It was a loaded question. Tsunade had spent decades avoiding thoughts of family. Convinced she was cursed to lose everyone she loved. The idea of bringing a child into the world, of giving herself another person to lose. I don't know, she said honestly. Part of me wants to say no. I'm older, I've already raised Nawaki in many ways, and I'm terrified of loss. But another part. She paused, surprised by the emotion welling up. Another part thinks that maybe a child with you wouldn't be cursed. That maybe I deserve a chance at family after all. Naruto's expression softened. You deserve every chance at happiness, Tsunade. And if you decide you want kids, I'd be honored. If you decide you don't, that's okay too. What about you? Sakura asked. Do you want children? Yeah, Naruto said without hesitation. I grew up alone. I want a big family, kids running around, chaos and noise and all of it. But I also want to be a good father, not just a sperm donor for clan restoration. So if we have kids, it'll be because we're ready, not because the council demands it. Agreed, all three women said in unison, then laughed at the synchronization. This is surreal, Sakura said, shaking her head. A few weeks ago, I was trying to work up the courage to confess my feelings. Now I'm sitting here planning a future with two other women and the man we all love. Life as a shinobi, Tsunade observed dryly. Nothing is ever simple. Can I ask something? Hinata said hesitantly. How do we handle the village's reaction? There will be gossip. Judgment. People who think this arrangement is scandalous or immoral. Let them talk, Naruto said firmly. I've dealt with gossip and judgment my whole life. I'm not about to let other people's opinions dictate my happiness. The council has already approved the framework, Tsunade added. The Clan Restoration Act gives us legal protection, and once you're Hokage, Naruto, you'll have even more authority to shape how the village views unconventional arrangements. But it won't be easy, Sakura warned. We should be prepared for backlash. For people questioning our choices. Then we face it together, Naruto said. He stood and moved to the center of their circle, offering his hands. All of us. Not as separate couples, but as a unit. Tsunade took his right hand. Sakura took his left. Hinata hesitated for just a moment before stepping forward and placing her hand over the joined ones. A unit, Tsunade repeated. I like the sound of that. We should formalize this, Sakura said. Not the official marriage ceremony. That can come later. But something for us. A private commitment. What did you have in mind? Naruto asked. Sakura looked at Tsunade and Hinata. A blood oath? It's traditional among shinobi clans for sealing important alliances. Hinata nodded. The Hyuga use blood oaths for our most sacred commitments. It would be fitting. Alright, Tsunade agreed. She pulled a kunai from her pouch and made a small cut across her palm without flinching. To honesty and communication, Sakura took the kunai next. To supporting each other, not competing, Hinata's hand shook slightly as she made her cut. To building something new together, Naruto went last, cutting deep enough that blood welled quickly. To making this work, no matter what, they pressed their bleeding palms together, and Tsunade felt a surge of chakra as their blood mingled. It wasn't a formal jutsu, but the symbolism was powerful. For people, for commitments, binding themselves together in a way that transcended tradition. When they pulled apart, Tsunade immediately used medical ninjutsu to heal the cuts. The scars would fade, but the memory of this moment, standing in a forest clearing, making an impossible promise, would remain. So what now? Naruto asked. Do we tell people? Make an official announcement? Not yet, Tsunade advised. Give yourselves time to figure out how this actually works in practice. Date. Spend time together both individually and as a group. Make sure this isn't just a good idea in theory. How long? Sakura asked. At least a few months. Long enough to encounter and work through the first major conflicts. Tsunade's expression turned serious. Because there will be conflicts, jealousy, misunderstandings, times when someone feels neglected or hurt. We need to prove to ourselves that we can handle those challenges before we go public. That's wise, Hinata said. My father will have opinions. It would be better to approach him when we're confident in this decision. And my family will have questions, Sakura added. Civilian-born Kunoichi marrying into a clan restoration arrangement? That's going to raise eyebrows. We'll face it all when we're ready, Naruto declared. Together, they spent the next several hours talking through logistics. How to split time fairly. How to handle missions that might separate them. What to do about living arrangements. Should they eventually all live together, or maintain separate spaces? It was exhausting and exhilarating in equal measure. By the time the sun began to set, Tsunade felt drained but oddly hopeful. We should do this regularly, she suggested. These group meetings. Maybe once a week at first, then adjust as needed. Agreed, Sakura said. It helps to have everyone in the same room. No room for misunderstandings. As they prepared to leave, Hinata hung back, her expression uncertain. Tsunade noticed and gestured for the others to go ahead. What's on your mind? She asked when they were alone. Hinata twisted her hands together nervously. I'm afraid I don't measure up. Sakura-san is brilliant and strong and confident. You're legendary, one of the Sannin. And I'm just, me. Quiet. Unsure. Why would Naruto-kun choose me when he could have either of you exclusively? Tsunade's heart ached at the vulnerability in Hinata's voice. She stepped closer, placing a gentle hand on the younger woman's shoulder. Hinata, listen to me. Your quiet strength is not a weakness, it's one of your greatest assets. You observe, you think before you act, you provide calm in chaos. Those are qualities Naruto needs, especially given how impulsive he can be. But I'm not. You jumped in front of pain, Tsunade interrupted firmly. You confessed your love in what you thought were your final moments. You stood here today and committed to an arrangement that terrifies you because you love Naruto enough to be brave. Do those sound like the actions of someone who doesn't measure up? Hinata's eyes were wide, tears threatening to spill over. And another thing, Tsunade continued, her voice softening. This isn't a competition. Naruto isn't choosing one of us over the others. He's choosing all of us, because we each offer something different, something he needs. Your gentleness balances Sakura's fire. Your thoughtfulness balances my impulsiveness. Don't compare yourself to us, just be yourself. That's who Naruto fell for. Thank you, Hinata whispered. I needed to hear that. We're going to need to support each other through this, Tsunade said. That means being honest when we're struggling. Can you do that? Hinata nodded. I'll try. That's all any of us can do. They walked back together, catching up to Naruto and Sakura at the edge of the training ground. Naruto immediately noticed Hinata's tear-stained face and moved to her side. You okay? He asked gently. I am now, Hinata said, managing a small smile. Tsunade-sama helped me. Naruto looked at Tsunade with such gratitude and affection that she felt her chest tighten. This was real. This was happening. And despite all her fears and doubts, she was choosing it. Walk me home? She asked Naruto impulsively. He blinked in surprise but nodded. Of course. Sakura and Hinata exchanged knowing looks but didn't comment, heading off in their own directions with promises to meet again soon. Tsunade and Naruto walked in comfortable silence for a while, the evening air cool against their skin. The village was settling in for the night, lights flickering on in windows, the smell of dinner cooking wafting from various homes. Thank you, Naruto said finally, for what you said to Hinata. I saw her face, you helped her, she needed reassurance. We all do, sometimes. Tsunade glanced at him. Are you okay? With all of this, honestly? I'm terrified. But also excited. And relieved that we're actually talking about it instead of dancing around it. He grinned. Plus, I get to date the 3 most amazing women in the village. That's pretty great. We're not a trophy collection, brat. I know. That's not what I meant. His expression turned serious. You're 3 incredible people who I care about deeply. And I'm going to do everything I can to make this work. To make all of you happy. Just don't lose yourself in the process, Tsunade cautioned. You can't make everyone happy all the time. Sometimes you'll have to make hard choices that disappoint one of us. We need you to be okay with that. I don't know if I'll ever be okay with disappointing people I love. Then you'll have to learn. Because perfect balance is impossible. There will be times when one relationship needs more attention than the others. Times when you have to choose between competing needs. She stopped walking and turned to face him. What matters is that you're honest about it. That you don't try to hide or minimize those moments. I can do that, Naruto said. Honesty I can do. They'd reached Tsunade's apartment. She hesitated at the door, not quite ready for the evening to end. Do you want to come in? She asked. Just to talk. Nothing. I mean, we should probably take things slow on the physical side. Naruto's face reddened, but he nodded. Slow is good. I have no idea what I'm doing anyway. Inside, Tsunade poured them both tea and they settled on her couch. It felt surreal, having Naruto in her personal space like this. Not as her student or her successor, but as, what? Her boyfriend? Her future husband? The terms felt inadequate. Can I ask you something? Naruto said, cradling his teacup. What made you decide to take a chance on this? On me? You could have anyone. That's not true. Most men are either intimidated by me or only interested in my reputation. Tsunade took a sip of tea. But you've never been intimidated. You've seen me at my worst, drunk, grieving, running from my responsibilities, and you never judged me. You just kept believing I could be better, because you are better. You're amazing. I'm a mess who's good at hiding it, Tsunade corrected. But with you, I don't feel like I have to hide. And that's rare. Precious. Naruto set down his tea and took her hand. I'm going to mess this up sometimes. I'm going to be clueless and say the wrong thing and forget important dates, probably, but I promise I'll always try. To be better. To listen. To make this work. Tsunade squeezed his hand. That's all I ask. They talked late into the night, about everything and nothing. About Naruto's plans for when he became Hokage. About Tsunade's research into new medical techniques. About their fears and hopes and the strange path they'd chosen. When Naruto finally left, well past midnight, Tsunade stood in her doorway watching him go. He turned back once to wave, his smile bright even in the darkness, and for the first time in longer than she could remember, Tsunade went to bed feeling genuinely hopeful about the future. The path ahead would be complicated. There would be challenges and conflicts and moments of doubt. But they were facing it together, for people choosing to build something new. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough.